Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Space Engineers. So, I'm torn a bit here. I've made a lot of progress, but there's not a whole lot to show for it, unfortunately. So I'm not quite sure what shape or form this episode will eventually morph into. I have a feeling I'm going to end up recording this across 2 days and then only sending one episode out instead of, the 2 episodes I've been doing each week. But we'll see how this works out. Let me try to bring up to speed as to what I've been doing. I've been doing a lot of scripting. If you follow me on Twitter, you probably noticed that I tweeted out a little picture of something similar to this. I forgot to actually figure out what my bug is. That was the other problem, I forgot. But I'll explain what I mean in a minute. I have been trying to move everything into this storage area. You can see I've got some things to show off here. I've got the refinery still here. The assembler is doing some stuff right now on loop. That's why you keep hearing that noise. I got the cargo container here, which we had before. Everything else it's all connected via tubes now. So everything's good. I brought the oxygen generator in here now, so it's a little bit more protected. Because if I come out here, you'll notice we've taken several strikes. I hope this guy's still good. Yeah, he's still good. Okay. Yeah, we've taken several strikes here. Nothing was destroyed other than the outside shell of this. So I was able to get everything back. I didn't lose anything. I did die once, and I died because the oxygen tanks keep disappearing. I had to build some more, and when I went to build some more, I ran out of nickel, and I had to go nickel mining and everything else, and died waiting for that stuff to get refined and everything. You can see I still have the reactor here, but it's just got very minimal stuff in it, along with the gravity generator. But I've moved everything else out of here, and I'm moving it all into the storage area. This is going to be just my landing pad. I want to move the medical center in at some point, but right now it's just going to stay here, I think. And I've got my turrets. What prompted me to do this quicker than I expected was that my turret over here took a direct hit. Just completely took a direct hit, and then everything started going down south at that point. This turret was destroyed at one point. This one has managed to survive with several iterations, but yeah, it's been an interesting time here. Been an interesting time off camera. Also, I have figured out how to recolor my blocks and stuff, although I didn't do all the ones underneath here. I should do that at some point. But I found out how to change the color on all these things by just in fact, I can show you how to do it, so you know for your own purposes. So what I've done is, let me bring up the menu here. So I've switched to my just a block. In this case, the light armor block. It doesn't I don't think it matters which one you do. I just picked the light armor block because I can. And if you go and you hit your bracket keys or bracket keys, you can change the colors, and I kind of like this color. You can also go into the P menu and do it there too. And then now with that block in your hand, if you hold down the middle mouse button, it will now color things, and actually makes a little boop noise, which I didn't know. I usually play the game without my headphones on, so sometimes noises surprise me sometimes. And that one little boop there. You can also, I think, if you hold down Shift, it does a larger area of things or something like that. But that's a nice way to color something that has already been put together without having to tear it all apart and all those things. All right, let's get our hands empty now, so that's not flashing up on my screen constantly. And is there? I feel like is there something up in here? No, it's just the light I was seeing. Okay, I was wondering about that. So, that said, you probably noticed over there, I have a new ship that is another drilling ship like this, but it's more of I've been using it more as a boring ship, and I used it to bore down into this area here. I was thinking of putting the tower right there, but now that I'm looking around, I'm thinking maybe I want tower a little bit further down that way, but we'll see. I'm going to probably put something here and probably have it go up there, and maybe it'll be, maybe this will work. I don't know. I have to mull it over a little bit more, because trying to get up and down in here is going to be interesting without using the thrusters. So I would like to do it without the thrusters, but I don't think I have a good spot here to do it. Although this wall could probably go back a little bit further. I'm going to have to do a lot more manually though, because doing it with the ship helped a lot, but it's not very easy to make it straight, as you can see there. So those kinds of things are what I'm looking at. How many? This thing's been running for a while. I have it running on loop. I want to see. We're up to 1,077. All right, I'll just keep doing steel plates. More steel plates the merrier, because I was running low on all the things here. And iron is very, very plentiful. So if I come up here, I can show you my boring ship. This is not the final form of it. I just threw a drill on front, and I just made it as compact as I could. It's got on the back here, you can't see it because I have it covered up, but it's got a medium cargo pod. What I want to do though is, I think the medium cargo pod got filled up pretty quickly. Like just drilling down here was enough to fill that up, along with all the other available space on it. So I think I'm going to expand it further out the back and have another medium cargo pod in series. And then up here, what I want to do is put a ring around the front here with these drill bits in it, and have all the drills connected to one another, because there's little ports on the sides there. And then I can basically do it like what I want, and just drill a hole right through and keeping straight. Because the problem here with this guy is I have to constantly like waggle back and forth, which makes it so that the hole is not very easy to build in. Like there's still a lot that you have to do to it, and I expect that there's still going to be a lot that I have to drill out with the next hole I want to make. But it's still I would like something that's I could keep the ship relatively straight and just go in a straight line, rather than trying to figure out where I'm going or if I'm hitting down at the right spot or not. Because what I'm proposing is I'd like to come out here a little bit, and that's where the home storage is. What I'd like to do is have a landing bay here, but I want to drill through the rock and come out the other side. Like I want to start on this side, and I want to drill all the way through to the other side and come out the other side, hopefully straight. Like this kind of is straight here. It's like a mushroom almost. So I'd like to go straight through it, through to the other side, and make it like a proper tunnel. And then that would be my, as I'm coming in for landing, I could land all my stuff in there. And then I'd like to have another one on the other side, which might not work because we've got so much stuff in the middle here. Maybe it'll be another one. Maybe it'll be somewhere else. Maybe it'll be further down in the rock or something like that. But I'd like to have a smaller bay that doesn't go all the way through, but it just goes, maybe halfway through. And that would be my maintenance slash, I guess, storage bay slash, whatever you want to call it. Well, maybe not storage bay, but it would be my creation bay. That's where I would create all my ships and have them fly out of there. And that one can probably be, it doesn't necessarily have to be connected to this, but I would like it to be. But, try to get that in there. And then we want to expand out, I want to expand out this storage area a little bit more. I'm not going to expand this way, obviously, but I like to have like another room. Yeah, I like to have another room coming off of here, maybe, that has the some of this other stuff in it. Like some of the other stuff that I would want. I want like a little production facility for just the bullets that my turrets need, and have the turrets connected to that, and little things like that. Where are these guys coming from? They're coming from that direction. Don't hit anything. Don't hit anything. Go. So far, so good. I think there's been a few hits taken down here, but hopefully everything's still good. Yeah, everything's still good. Being on this side, it seems like most of them come this way now. Although a few do come down that way. It just, being on this side of the asteroid is not very not a very good place to be, honestly. So I want to make sure I can move all my stuff out somewhere else to try to protect it. But having said all that, I've kind of brought you up to speed to what I've done here. You can see how I drilled the hole right straight down here, but it wasn't very straight. I want to show you, and I want to explain what's going on here. I've got a timer block, and I've got a programmable block, and I've got a bunch of stuff on the wall here on the two LCD panels. So first of all, I'll explain the timer block. What this does is, and I had to look some of this up because it was a little bit obtuse to me when I first did it, and then once I realized what it was doing, it kind of made more sense. It's got a delay here, 10 seconds, and I'm going to set it for our purposes, just for this demo. I'm going to set it to 3 seconds. When we're done here, I'm probably going to set this to 5 minutes because I don't really need an update every 3 seconds. What this does is, every 3 seconds, or after 3 seconds, I should say, this block will have a set of actions that it will trigger once I hit start. And when you say set up actions, it brings you confusingly into like the G menu, but what this is doing is actually setting up the toolbar of the actions that you want to happen. In this case, I want it to run the script that's in the programmable block, and then I want it to trigger itself again. That way it goes in a loop. So it says timer block start there, and it says programmable block run. You can give the arguments in here too if you want, those kinds of things. And this is showing me all the different things that are connected right now to this timer block, that this timer block has access to. So it took me a little bit to figure that out, but that's exactly what it's doing. And on a 3 second delay, if I start this up, you'll see it will, every 3 seconds, it will flash green for a moment and then flash white again. So every second it's doing that little flashing. And what it's doing is it's running the program that I have loaded in here, which is then updating all these counts on the screen here. The counts on the blue are things that I have a good supply of. So I've got a good supply of gravel, cobalt, nickel, uranium, stone, and all those things. What's in red are the things that I am, and I'm trying not to, let's take that off a little bit. I'm trying not to hover over because that hover thing is really bad. In red is what I need more of, or what I'm running out of. In this case, scrap ore, not a big deal, but uranium, for some reason, like the uranium ores over here, which makes sense, but the uranium ingots, I think I have a bug in the script here that we're going to look at, so I have to figure out why it shows up on both panels, but I think I found an issue there somewhere. Uranium ore, so any ores that are less than 5,000, I have as, and actually the formatting on that didn't come through either, so I do have a few bugs around uranium. I have to look at what I'm doing there. Anything that is less than 5,000 shows up on this screen here, with the exception of uranium. Uranium I've set it to, like, because 5,000 uranium is way more than you could ever probably find. I have it set to a different number for that. So then, scrap ore I don't have a whole lot of, which I don't really care for. I should probably filter that out. Magnesium powder I'm running low on, it says. Gold ingots, silver ingots, silicon wafers, nickel ingots, and platinum ingots. And, you know, the ingots make sense because, as you can see, the nickel is slowly increasing because that is what's being refined right now. It's decreasing on the left-hand side. And then on the left-hand side, I also show how much storage space I have and the percentage, which right now it's 0%. Like I've barely scratched the surface of the amount of storage that I have. So this is good. These are good numbers here. And I did that just so I could see what I'm doing. The other thing I'm going to do eventually, which I forgot to do before I started recording, is I want to, everything okay down there? No, so far so good. I want to put the last updated time on it, which you can do. I just have to look it up again, so that I know, since it's going to be updating every 5 minutes, I can look at it and say, oh, when was the last time this was updated, so I know what numbers I'm looking at. So that's what I have there. Now, ordinarily, I would go into the programmable block here and explain what I have done with this, how I've done all this stuff. Problem is, as I've noticed, there's no horizontal scroll bar in here. I don't know why there's no horizontal scroll bar. There just isn't. And I've been doing all the scripting in Visual Studio outside of this, because this is just a regular text screen, and it doesn't really, it's very hard to parse what you're actually seeing on the screen. So what I'm doing instead of showing it to you there, I am going to tab on over to Visual Studio, and I've increased the text size, so hopefully you guys can see this. This is the first time I've ever tried to record text on a video like this, so I'm hoping that I've increased the zoom enough. You can always let me know in the comments if I should increase it a little bit further. But this is the script that we're running. Now, I should mention how I've set it up. Visual Studio has a, what are they calling it? Community Edition or something like that, I believe it's called. I'll leave you links so you can find it. But it's a free version, basically, that you can download and install it. And then there is also a video that the Space Engineers developers put out a while ago that actually tells you how to set it up so that you can do scripting, mostly for mods, but it also works for the in-game scripts. Basically, it's just a couple of, in your, this is the Solution Explorer, this is not really what I want, but there's references that you do when you start a new project, and in there you select the several DLLs, and then you'll have all the references that you need then for this. There's one that they left off, and unfortunately I don't remember which one it was. But Visual Studio is very helpful. It told me once I got some of this set up, it's like, hey dummy, some of these things that you want are referenced in this other DLL. You should probably bring that in as a dependency. And I did, and it was easy enough. I think it was Sandbox Game DLL or something Game DLL, I think it was, that they didn't mention, but it's needed now. They also mentioned a different DLL that doesn't even exist anymore, so it makes sense. Maybe they just changed the name of it after they did that video. But suffice it to say, there's a few things I want to point out here. Visual Studio, when you start up a project, it will give you the most commonly used using statements. System link, you're not going to be able to use. So removing that's probably a good idea. I tried it, and I tried using something that ended up extending from this, and it wasn't available to me. So just a word of advice there. But all these other usings are things that I've brought in. So Sandbox Common components, definitions, engine, game, mod API in-game, mod API interfaces. You can see I'm only really using mod API in-game and interfaces, but I brought the other ones in just in case I ever need them. So there you go. And system text I'm using too, apparently, in collections. That's for my code that I've written. And then all I've done is I've made a class. It doesn't really matter what you name this class, because this line does not get copied into the script in the in-game. Basically just name the in-game script, doesn't matter what it is. But I implement my grid program. I think that's implement. That might be extend. Not entirely sure. I'm still learning C#. I'm a Java developer by trade, so, and I used to do C back in the day, so I understand some of C. But C# I've never dug into, so there are some things that I recognize because of Java, but there are other things that I don't quite recognize, and I don't know if this is implements. I think my grid program is an interface, so I think that's implements versus extends. So just if I say the wrong thing, I apologize for those of you who know C# in and out. I'm still learning it myself. Down here is the main method. This is the one that they actually give you when you first start a script. And so all I did was replicate that here, and everything from this point down is what I have copied into the script panel. I'm just going to explain a few things here and there. I apologize if you're watching this and you don't particularly feel as passionate as I do about programming. friends, this is my life. This is I love this stuff. This is one of the reasons that I'm putting up with a lot of the lacking of things to do in Space Engineers, is because I love the programming. I once I saw that I could program like a normal programmer instead of having to deal with like redstone nonsense and whatnot, I was on board entirely. So this kind of interests me, and I will try to rein myself in as much as I can. But know that I love this stuff. So I could talk for hours about this. But anyway, I've set up a few constants to help me out. The low mining resources threshold, that's what I was talking about earlier. Anything less 5,000 or less goes into the red panel, which is the low resources panel. Anything for uranium that is less than 2 goes into the low resources panel, although as I mentioned, I have some sort of bug that I have to figure out what's going on there because it's showing up in both. And then everything else that is above this number, above both of these numbers, goes into the normal resources panel, which is the blue panel on the left that you saw in the game. Down here is our main method. I don't use argument right now, but I've left it in just so that you can see there's nothing up my sleeve. And what I do is I go through and try to get all the inventories that I have access to. And I have a bunch of utility methods for that. So I'm going to skip down to my utility class here, because this is the probably the more interesting part, because this is the one that I'm going to be reusing as much as possible. So what I've done is I've created a class util, and yes, all this stuff works. I've copied all this in there. And in here, I've put some static methods that are I can reuse for things like getting all the cargo containers. I just say grid terminal system, get my cargo, anything with that's an IMI cargo container that implements that interface goes into this list here, and then return that list back to me. You're probably asking, why do I pass IMI grid terminal system into this? Because this is a static, and this is not. This is a this is an implementation thing. This is not a static variable, so I can't access a non-static variable from a static context. Feel free to go look things up. I am being purposely terse. I could explain to you all the ins and outs, but I know it's probably annoying most people right now if I do that. But here, this is just some static methods I set up, getting all the refineries, all the reactors, all the assemblers, and then I have another one here that tells me if an assembler is idle. So what I do is I go and oh, health low. What is going on here?
Your health is critical.
Oh, my oxygen is out. Oops. Oopsie. I ran out of oxygen talking to you guys. Oops. Oops. Luckily I still have the respawn station here. I should probably pick up an oxygen bottle while I'm talking to you guys here. Sorry about that. Can I pick up my body? No, I can't pick up my body. Can I pick up the stuff that I just lost from my body? No. No. Oh, there we go. There we go. Took him a while, but it's. Oh, he's in the walls now. He's in the walls. All right, I can't open that at all. That kind of sucks. I'll have to make all my tools again. That's all right. That's all right. Whatever game. You won this round. Let's grab an oxygen bottle this time around, so that I can stand here and talk to you lovely folks without being interrupted by death. I had a feeling I would do that at some point too. That was just inevitable. But anyway, I was talking about idle assemblers here. What I do is I call my get all assemblers, right? And then I loop over them and I say, is the queue empty? And is it not working? So is the assembler idle and its queue empty? Then add it to the idle assemblers. Now you're asking yourself, what are you going to use this for? What is this used for in this script? It's not yet. I have plans. I have grand plans where I want to be able to manage the assemblers at some point and be able to queue things up. And you can queue things up. I was very happy to see that. It looks like all the pieces are there. I just haven't done it yet. But I wanted to point that out because it's kind of an interesting little tidbit there. And then the other, that's about the only one in the utility class I have here that I'm not using right now. Other ones that I am using, get resource counts. Basically, I pass a list of inventories into it, and I loop over it. What I'm doing is I'm creating a dictionary object, which is backed by a hash table. Being a Java guy, I like hash maps. I do a lot of things with hash maps. Dictionary is about the closest I can get to a hash map. It's really a hash table, which is slightly different in how it handles keys, and you can't have non-existent keys and all that stuff. So this is the best I could do here. Whether or not there's a better data structure to use is up for debate. There's always tends to be 9 or 10 data structures when you're looking at things, and it all comes down to preference at some point. But I've created a dictionary. A dictionary is basically a key value pair. The key is just a string, which in this case will be the name of the ore or ingot that I have picked up, or that I've grabbed out of the inventories as I'm looping over them, and then inventory item, which is a little class that I made just to hold some hold some properties of the item, namely the amount of that item that's in the inventory, a pretty name for it, and the type of item, whether it's an ore or an ingot. Those come through. So down here again, what I do is I loop over, I grab all the inventories. I'll try to highlight that here. I grab all the inventories, or I loop over all the inventories that have passed in here. I grab the first inventory, and then I say, what is your inventory count? Now I do this because some blocks have multiple inventories, namely they have inputs and outputs, like the refinery, for instance. It has 2 inventories in it. Most of them have 1, refineries have 2. And I take that and I say, okay, get whatever inventory we're on, whether it's 1 or 2, 0 or 1 I should say, and get all the items from there. Then I say, for every item that's in that inventory, grab me the subtype name from which is basically the internal name that the game knows the item as, and give me the type of that item. So whether it's an ore or an ingot, or there might be another type in there too. And then what I do is I kind of fudge it a little bit, and I say, okay, here's the name. If the type of the item that I just picked or just looked at, it ends with _ore, then add ore to the name. Otherwise, add ingot to the name if it has ingot. Otherwise, just leave the name the way it is. And then from that, this name is what's going to become my key to the dictionary here. And you're saying, well, why have a dictionary? Why not just do like an array or something like that? Well, the idea behind this is a dictionary. A key is unique within a dictionary, which means that since I'm doing a simple counting thing here, where I want to look at every inventory that I have access to, and I want to count how many resources I have, and I only want 1 count for every resource, right? I don't want to have an array of everything and then have to loop through it and go, all right, is this the same type as the last one I just saw? Okay, then add that. It's the same type as the last one, add that. Instead, what I've done is to say, by putting it in this dictionary, the key is unique, and by this name here is really the key. I really should have named this key, string key, whatever. And this name will always be the same for every time it finds like an iron ore or an iron ingot or everything. Wherever it finds it, it's always going to have this same name. And so what I say here is, if the resource counts dictionary contains that key already, grab that item out of there, add the amount of the item I just found to the amount that I had already stored, and just leave it in there. Otherwise, if this is something we haven't encountered yet, if it's an ore that we haven't yet found, that the script hasn't encountered at this point, create a new item and give it the amount, the type, and a display name, and I have a little utility here that prints the pretty item name, and I'll show that in a little bit. And then put that into the resource counts dictionary under that key. And basically it just does that. It just goes through. Every time it finds something new, it adds it into the dictionary. If it finds another of that thing in another inventory, it'll just add that to the total count, and then bam, I've got a total count of all the things, and it comes back out in the resource counts here. The pretty item name thing is, it's a hacky thing. It's basically, I want it to have the name be what it's supposed to be, and I wanted to, this is what's going to show up on the LCD panels. And so I basically I pass in the internal name and the type, and then I just say, okay, if it's an ore and it's stone is the internal name, then return stone as the name. Otherwise, add ore to the end of the name. Gravel, magnesium powder, all this stuff. And then here's all the other things that I could encounter, like construction components, metal grids. Basically, I'm translating the internal names to something that is a little bit prettier to look at on the LCD screens. I don't particularly like this. I feel like there's tooltips in the game, right? Those tooltips, when you hover over something, have proper strings, the proper names in them. I've been looking around, searching through the code base to see if there's a way for me to get that, the way that tooltip is printing, getting the name in that tooltip into my scripts. And I don't know if I have access to it or not, but I've been looking around to see if I can find it. Because that way, all those names are what we like to call externalized strings or internationalized strings, which means, these internal names end up getting mapped. Probably, if this were Java, there would be a resource bundle. I don't know how C# and .NET does it, but in Java, there's the concept of resource bundles, and they're basically property files that have internal names, and then you say equal, and then you have the actual text that would show up on the screen. That way, and then you have several files. One of them would be like English US, and then that's what the file that would, the text in there would be the file that would be what would be shown in the tooltip that pops up for English-speaking people in the US. And then you might have one for German-speaking people in Germany, and so on and so forth. And in that way, you send one file out to your translators, and then translators just go through the file and they just translate everything from English to German or whatever all the way through, and then they just give you that file back, and then everything just magically works. You don't have to change code or anything like that. I want to tie into that somehow, but I have no idea what to call, unfortunately. And the only thing I saw was this out on the web, something similar to this. I made my own modifications to it so it wasn't so hard to look at. They had a lot of if statements in there that they didn't need, but yeah, this is a hack for now until I can find out if I can gain access to those tooltips, so I can just print it out that way and let the game tell me what it is. That way, this script, I could put it up on the Steam Workshop, and a German-speaking person could just use it without having to change all the English text in it to something else, But that's just me being the being the kind-hearted person that I am. The only other thing in this utility class that I have here is the pretty print resource. This is used to actually print out the resource name, the item display name, and the amount. And what I do for the amount is I just divide it by 1,000 and round it to 2 places, and then put a K at the end of it so you can see it. Otherwise, I just show you what the item amount is and then do a 2-string on it. This is what's supposed to be for the... I would use this for things like the uranium and stuff. That's why I don't see a K on it, because I didn't actually divide it by 1,000. But I might have to revise that a little bit based on what I'm seeing on the actual LCD screens. And then string.format is just doing replacement here. It replaces 0 and 1. 0 gets replaced with the whatever the first parameter is to this, and 1 with the second parameter. It's just a faster way of doing some string plus some string plus some string plus some string. This is a lot nicer to look at and easier to grok. That's the basic premise behind it. You see I use it up here too, preprint storage, total storage space, which is in my main-ish class here. So that describes that. Basically, I go here back in the main, I get all the cargo containers. I have a running list of all the things that I care about here. So I get all the cargo containers and I add it to my running list. I get all the refineries, I add it to my running list. I get all the reactors, add it to my inventories list that I care about. And then I start going into the pretty prints here, and I say, All right, util, go get the resource counts of these inventories, and I call it twice here for these guys. And it's just, we saw that in the utility class, and then here's where I'm pre-printing stuff. I just go, and this is pretty straightforward. I just say, look through all the stuff, and
Storm inbound.
okay, meteor storm inbound. Look through all this stuff, and then print it out onto the screen. You might notice if you are familiar with C#, you're probably cringing a little bit because I haven't used any for each methods in here, any for each keywords and for each loops. I would like to use them, but it appears, based upon advice from the forums and also from the developers themselves, for each apparently has some kind of bug in it in the way that they're running the script, and it doesn't work quite right all the time, particularly on 64-bit systems like mine. So that's why I've had to resort to doing a while here and pulling out an enumerator and then looping over the old-fashioned way over stuff instead of having a nice compact for loop. You'll see that in other places too. That is just because that seems to be a limitation for the moment in the scripting, in-game scripting engine. And that's about it. I mean, I think pretty much everything else is pretty self-explanatory here. I'm saying if this is greater than the low uranium threshold, then put that. If it's greater than the low mining resources and it ends with ore or ingots, then pre-print that on the other for the high resource counts, and then low resource counts is the opposite, or should be the opposite. Yeah, less than or equal to those kinds of things. So I think that should be relatively straightforward there, but this is where I've been doing things, and this has helped out quite a bit. As you can see, like syntax coloring and a whole lot nicer to look at, a whole lot nicer. But I thought I'd go through what the script actually does, so you can kind of glean some of the things that I've been working on and how some of this is put together, and how much power this game actually gives you when it comes to those kinds of things. Is that moving? Did something get damaged here? Because I feel like this is moving a little bit too much for my... Okay, no, I think everything's okay here. I think we're okay. I thought maybe this got hit because it seemed like it was rocking back and forth, but it seems to be okay. Seems to be okay for now. Anything get hit over here? No, everything's so far so good. Taking a bunch of strikes there, but that we had those earlier. Do we still have some resources in here? Only 4 on the one and 1 on the other one. Okay, I gotta replenish these while I'm thinking about it before I forget. But yeah, I want to start digging that hole, or drilling that hole, and I want to make upgrades to my drill in order to do it. I still have my oxygen bottle. That's good. Yeah, these oxygen bottles are disappearing. It is most definitely that they're disappearing. So I've been trying to not have them in my inventory, because it seems like they disappear from my inventory. When you do shift clicking, particularly, it seems to get rid of them. Now, what happened to... I had some... Oh, they're all sitting in the assembler. Okay, I was going to say, I had some things built here. And it looks like my assembler has stopped. What is my power situation here? That's good. All right. I think maybe it ran out of resources, which is fine. I think it's put enough steel plates together. Let's do production. Let's turn that off. There you go. We'll remove that from the queue. Yeah, it has run out of... I have run out of iron for a change. It's been a while, but I've got plenty of iron around here, as you can see, that I've built on top of. All right, let's get these things. Let's get some ammo back into here before they run out, because they are still helping quite a bit to keep some of the badness at bay. So we'll just do 44, and then we'll do 44 on the other, or 40 on the other one, I should say. Come over here. Let's do this. And whoops, I missed missed the platform. Let's come back up here again. And get me over there. There we go. All right, and like I said, I want to eventually have these be hooked up and have a assembler that's doing nothing but that constantly. This thing is like Swiss cheese. This is what I was complaining about off camera at one point. You know, just things manage to hit all the things in here, no matter how hard you try to protect them. But yeah, so far so good with all that. I do want to drill that hole at some point. But I think, yeah, we've gone on for quite some time here, so I think that'll wrap up this episode. I apologize. I know I'm not getting a whole lot done on camera, but I just there's a lot of grinding right now, and it's I'm trying to save you from all the grindiness that I would normally just do on camera, and you would have to sit through. You know, I want this to be somewhat to the point if I can help it, but hopefully it's still fun to look at anyway. But like I said, that will do it for this episode of Space Engineers. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time.